Hello ladies and gentlemen, and thank you guys so much for watching. Today I'm doing something different. I am not actually driving the bus again. Uh, for now. Reason being is because I'm prepping my bus for a field trip. I put a little thought into what I'm gonna do before I leave for my trip. Um, and I could always just do something when I get back, just to keep you guys up to date. Uh, Only thing is, that's only if I'm actually going to, or end up forgetting to upload this video. I'll probably just, no. I'm still thinking about it. For once, my bus has a little bit of fuel in it, not that it's gonna matter much. Just for the record, I have my throttle set, so just testing that little feature. It's not a high idle. I'm making guesses that don't work. Kinda figured as much. Don't ask me why I have a light seat. I don't think it's a bug at all. No. Not even close. Hush, little one, hush. Oh, it's not really a little bus either. Okay. I guess I'll just give you a quick, brief tutorial here. For any training I'm gonna use what I would say is my temporary bus. Well, technically, it is technically my route bus until I get myself that new bus. But, new bus, aka when another update comes out, that actually has a meaning to me. But, you're not going to start off with 70 psi of air pressure, obviously. You're going to start off with 0. But, ideally, what you're going to want to do, and because I wouldn't play with this unless you're actually getting out of your bus to check your lights and all that jazz. And truthfully, because I'm in a public server, and trainings are going to be on private ones, if I remember this correctly, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to check for anything. You would want to make, if this was the real deal, you would want to make sure those are closed and good to go. You will require most likely to have a route number, which I believe mine is 203. You do want to make sure everything's all good to go, nothing is obstructed. And everything is looking up, or is looking good, and your fluids. I don't think you would have to check your fluids in the game. I am not 100% on this, but just for reference, just check the battery, make sure you have your battery disconnect switch to whatever position it needs to be for it to work. And you would want the route number like minus 203. I take it off because it drives me insane. And what you would want to do now that you know nothing is leaking and everything is appears to be good, you want to make sure you're going to want to make sure that the wait to start light on the GUI goes out. Right as soon as you spawn this bus, or any of the buses, you're going to hear the very annoying alarm, and you're going to see a low air symbol on the UI. Don't panic. If you really wish to, you can always accelerate and make it hush faster. But, or you can just turn down the game and let your trainer deal with it. One out of the two that I just said is probably recommended. I'd rather not hear of a incident where, you know, I don't hear the clicky sound, and I don't see the wait to start light on my UI, so I am clear to start it. She is started, and we are building air pressure. At this time, what you want to do is make sure your rear dome light is on. And you want to make sure those are on. And they are. What you're going to do is you're going to exit the bus. You're going to want this running, by the way. I have my high beams on, my hazards on, and my yellow, or what they would say, your amber loading lights activated. And just for the record, I am completely aware of the fact that there is a red override switch, aka button, not scripted on the bus, but it is in the keybind. I do not see, going back to the lamps here on the front, I do not see any. What you do not want to see is anything burnt out, broken, missing. Or not properly working. And so far I see my high beams are on, because I activated them. My hazards are working and flashing. My loading lights, which do not strobe, is working just fine. And none mentioned were burnt out. We're going to move to the side of the bus. It is the daytime. Running lights I can see are working on the top of the bus and on the side, and I can see the left turn signal flashing and flashing its normal pattern. We're going to move on to the back of the bus. Again, you want to hear your reverse alarm, and you do want to see your reverse lights. I understand some of the buses are a little hard to see, but rest assured, I can see my four-ways are flashing its normal pattern. My tail lights are on because my headlights are on, and my reverse lamps and alarms are sounding and active. None cracked, missing, or broken. And my loading lights are flashing its normal pattern. And are acting like it should on a normal basis. Because I'm about to chuck this thing out the window, I'm gonna quickly do myself the favor of hushing my reverse alarm. Don't ever say that during training, by the way. It ain't gonna be, it wouldn't look so pretty. Okay. I entered the bus and you'd notice that I had switched the emergency air release switch back to its air operation system deal thing, and made it so it wasn't acting as an emergency door. I may have to revise my plan here. So I'm going to hit B, which is going to activate my override, my red override. I am going to yet again flip that. You probably do. Sorry. So what you're gonna want to see here is now that I have my low beams on, you're gonna want to see if your bus is equipped with it. You're gonna want to see the student crossing arm fully extended. You're gonna want to also make sure there's no loose or missing parts, and nothing is loose, missing, or broken on it. Very rare thing to have break. You're going to want to make sure your low beams are working just fine. This specific bus is working, does have working headlights at this given time. I don't see anything loose or missing or anything wrong or burnt out in any way, shape, or form. Again, my four-ways are flashing its normal and proper pattern. My reds are flashing at its normal pattern. I forgot to mention that my front clearance lights are working and none of them are burnt out. My stop sign is flashing its normal pattern. This does strobe. It is fully extended and both sides are strobing. And there is no loose or missing parts, and there is nothing obstructing it. I failed to tell you guys that I saw that the rear clearance lights are working properly. I don't see anything visibly wrong with it, and there's nothing burnt out. My LED red loading lights are flashing in proper pattern. My hazard lights are flashing at its proper pattern. And we will go back into the bus. And before I forget, I want to make sure I have everything shut because I've been known to drive a few things open that should not have been. Not really my fault, but you know. You're gonna notice this bus has, oops, sorry. You're gonna notice this bus has two two digital Zonar wands. Not too sure what exactly he was trying to script with it, but I'm gonna cancel my red override switch. And just to prove to you guys, since a lot of you guys did not believe me, I'm gonna press F. I'm gonna press F with my yellows on. And I'm just gonna prove to you that my reds do physically work when I press F. So I'm not actually pressing B and F at the same time. Otherwise you would see this, the WL Emer, aka the red override, the red emergency override switch, which is really what it's called in game. But you would see that down below if I really was using that, and so yeah. Another thing about the training bus, which is most likely I'm not even doing routes like I just said. So, and I'm not gonna pull this bus off the lot because I just said I was gonna get this ready. There's gonna be a little thing here. I don't necessarily believe the rear dome lights are part of it, but it's always great to check. Actually, I'm very positive it's part of it. They do not ever, they don't really, they don't necessarily, tell you to do a air brake test. They recommend you don't. For the training part, I would have to ask questions further along this, but you're going to want to check your emergency doors and hatches. This one has a bug in it, and they are aware of it. Okay. Okay. We're gonna be a little bit of a challenge today, I hear, huh? I'll play this game. You want to hear an alarm from this one. I hear the alarm. It hushes when I flip that switch. All of my dome lights are working properly from this POV here. That emergency hatch does work. That's annoying as all get out, as usual. Both of those work, and are free from obstructions at this given point. All of my dome lights are working, which means I can turn them off now. Except for the rear one. You're gonna notice that the Bluebird Vision and the D3 RE does have strobe lights. At no point are you allowed to use them in any route session hosted by the staff team, as the district does not allow them. So, furthermore, into all the conclusions in the world, you're also going to want to make sure your wipers are working if your bus is equipped with it. Most of the buses do have them. It's the CEs that don't. But, um, I have confirmed that my wipers were working. Normally, um, so, I'm going to also explain to everybody how the D3 and the T3s work. first and foremost, that's only, the clicky sounds. I didn't tell you, my friend, that I was going into a foreign area. Not that, I have a problem with it, it's just, it's not where I'm going. I've probably mentioned this in my, community announcements page on the channel, but, oh, and before I forget, you do want to make sure your horn works, and it does. I almost forgot about that, but we're going to talk a little bit about the range inhibits. So, to shift, what you're probably used to is not using the brake whatsoever and hitting E or Q, depending on if you actually want to reverse or drive forward in the bus out of your space that your bus is supposed to be in. What normally would happen if you're on the newer buses or on the D3s is that not only will the transmission deal say or flash at you, but you'll see a message on the dash that flashes range inhibit. This bus does not do it, but it does have the range inhibit. It does not work with the parking brake, unfortunately, when the newer T3s do have them. You can try to release the parking brake without any brake inputs as much as you like. It ain't gonna happen. And there's been lots of bug reports about that, so I wanted to make it crystal clear that there is no bug being found. It's an actual safety feature, which is amazing for when people are trying to steal your bus, aka the guests, who play on console, who has no access to the chat feature. But I'm pressing E right now with no brake input. I have a range inhibit occurring, which means it's restricting me from shifting because I have to have brake input. And by doing that, you must have either the arrow down button or the S key held down while shifting into gear. Now, I'm going to show you something. You can shift it into neutral with the brake, with the service brake not depressed at all. You cannot put it back in gear if you do not do that again, if you do not press it again. The green light on the dash, mind you, is the wait to start light. It sometimes stays on every now and then. It's not a thing to worry about, as it happens all the time. Usually, the bus will not start until it's out anyway, so that's your best way to tell if it starts all the way and stays running. That's your best way to tell your glow plugs were pretty much good. And another thing I wanted to explain to you guys. If you use your red, or if you have your doors open with the switch fully air ridden, where your air rides are armed, if you hit B again, your reds are going to stay on. To fix that, you just hit F to close your doors. And they will turn them off. And a thing here is that I will always have I'll probably have my reds on every time I'm stuck behind a bus unless I'm doing a legitimate deal, which haven't got trained, and Franklin County schools beat them to it. But whenever I'm stuck behind a bus, I may have my doors open to have my reds come on, because my driver does that IRL, and might be the only driver in our district that actually does that. I'm not 100% sure, but if you see that I have my doors open and my reds are on, and I'm stuck behind you, don't panic. I'm not trying to duplicate your stops. Otherwise, you would hear that. Only time you're ever gonna hear that after I've been stopped and I see that you're complaining about it is because I'm responding to you. I don't want to hit your bus. Because I don't want to have people complain more. But that's the only thing. And technically, legally, there's nothing wrong with using your reds. When stopped, because that you're stuck behind a bus that's right in front of you doing its route, kind of like you are. just not in that particular area. It happens so many times. The only issue you're going to be having is the fact that Washington actually does not recommend or necessarily, they don't necessarily like the fact that using reds when stuck behind a bus. They'd rather you use your hazards, but really having your amber or yellow loading lights and your hazards as well if you really want to be overkill with it is good enough. I did ask the owner of the game if that would actually be acceptable and not just the hazards, because having hazards on while being stuck behind a bus is going to drive me absolutely nuts if I ever do catch a training for both CDL and the route driver or the route bus trainings, because apparently they wanted to be a little realistic, which is totally fine. I don't care for that, because I know I'd master that like none other. What you would want to also do is make sure you do a radio check, but nonetheless, um, I'm going to show you how to post-trip now. It's okay if you forget, and hang on for a second, I have to clear that wait to start light. It's going to drive me crazy. Because it's a diesel and it really is a game and doesn't have damage effects yet, but because I know that just starting and shutting down a diesel is not good for it, I'm gonna wait a little. I'll wait a minute or two before I shut it off again. Okay, so you see the headlights on, deal that's flashing and currently beeping at me. That's because my headlights are on, and bluebirds don't like it when you leave your headlights on when you're shutting down the engine. I'm also going to highly remind you that most of the newer, actually all of the newer buses with this type of transmission actually has a feature where that disappears, like it would in real life. Unless that's updated. I have not driven the newer T3 REs since the last time I made a video on it. So what you're gonna want to do was, technically you were supposed to wait before you shut down the bus, but oh well. It's off now. What you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to sweep through every seat here. I like doing this in first person. I know some people might get a little sick about it. And if that does happen, I truly apologize. That's probably not fun to deal with. I kind of figured. That was just a test. Don't play with that. It's the rear one that will sound with the engine off. This seat's always the hardest one to keep clean. After all, students do sit there. Just because I played with the other one, I might as well. I'm not gonna touch the rear one. That one. I won't touch that one. And I'm gonna just repeat that, just going up to the front. What I'm doing is pretty much the manual hard labor way of doing a child checkmate system deal. You're just doing its process for it. Issue is, none of Monroe School District buses have a child checkmate system. Perfectly fine and dandy, because that just means you don't have to deal with another thing if you don't have a child checkmate system for any of your buses that you're used to. And you also just note that I did not do the entire training course with you. And I also highly encourage that you read some things on trainings when one is about to be hosted. Also, when the engine is running, you know these amber lights right here? Those flash. You don't want to see any... You don't want to see anything flashing from anywhere. This did take longer than I anticipated. But I am told that I was supposed to actually drive this up onto one of the stall that Oh, and by the way, you will want to make sure that the rear dome light is off. I'm going to turn that back on because I'm about to drive it. I'm not worried about fuel right now. Chances are they're gonna drain it anyway. We're gonna do a little bit of, or they're gonna do a little bit of maintenance before we leave in the morning for the AM route and the trip. Whoops. Funny. This thing always protests when I try to make it. Whoa. It always protests every time I try to make it go into a, or when I make it, when I just don't hit the gas and just let it coast at 4 miles an hour, it usually just revs up a little bit on its own, like you just seen. But sometimes it just doesn't. It actually fights. It resists. Anywho, come on. Oh, I wonder who was the idiot that did that. Me. I did that. I'm gonna be nice to maintenance today. I will not be having a spare tomorrow, by the way. Whoops. I went too far. And in case you're wondering where the fuse box is, it's this panel, it's this door right here that's not clickable. I could probably drain that right now, but no need. They were originally going to pull that in anyway. Anywho, keep in mind that I again did not do the complete to them pre-trip inspection. I did, however, I did, however, come very, very, very close to it. Um, anyway, also don't actually empty your air tank like that when you're doing your post-trip with your inspector. Um, they'll more than likely fail you for it, but yeah, that's all I gotta say for now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and God bless. Whoops. No. I just realized something. I totally could have used bus 93. That's our training bus. Oh well. And if you guys really don't believe me, don't think I don't read this. I'm not an idiot here. There's not. They don't put it down as training for no reason. Anywho, we've hit the 1 hour mark, and that was far longer than what I was wanting originally. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and God bless.